Hey everyone, it's Paul, and I'm gate crashing the Ian cast once again. Ian, hope it's okay.
Yeah, welcome back, Paul. Always good to have you.
Thank you. We got a lot of stuff going on. Tesla's at 500, Bitcoin's rallying, pot's rallying, but we're going to start somewhere else. Let's just chat a little bit about what you're seeing in the market right now.
Yeah, so one area that I want to start talking about a little more because this is a huge trend, a generational trend, is housing. So I've talked a little bit before about the housing market, and basically this is a big millennial play. So the millennials have dominated the housing market in terms of homes actually bought for the past 2 years. We've been the biggest demographic by far. And this is really setting up to become like a multi-year trend, even carrying through to Generation Z, because they are going to reach their peak home buying years in like 10 to 15 years. So right now, in 2019, actually, more new homes were sold than any year since before the financial crisis, the real estate crash in 2008. And we're seeing this continue to just get higher and higher. Millennials are moving out of home. And as Gen Zers graduate from college, there's going to be this housing boom. And that's kind of one of the frameworks of the American industrial economy, because if people are spending on houses, like that's a big commitment, that's a big purchase. And more homes are being built every single year for the past several years. So that's one of the big like underpinnings of the economic growth that we're seeing right now.
And you know that I've made this video called America 2.0, which essentially it's the same idea except in a slightly different way because we focus a lot, on megatrends. Okay, so Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, blockchain, new energy, and then I talk about really the biggest megatrend in the end is what you just talked about, which is the millennial generation, 93 million strong, because it takes new generations to want to adopt new technologies. And one of the most basic things about really the US economy in particular is that moment when you buy a house. And it's like when you move out of your folks' house permanently, now you own your own house, you're on your own, and it sets up from the economy side. Now the economy has to make so many different things, which now with all of these new megatrends means that we're going to have to invest in a lot of like equipment and stuff like that. And I believe it's going to cause what I'm calling the fourth industrial revolution, and it's going to remake our country. I mean, and we're investing a lot of these things, Tesla, which we talk about, Internet of Things. However, we're going to have so many new technologies going on that we're investing in, because as people put their houses together and then put their lives together, they're going to really just completely recreate America. And that's the essence of what we are now telling folks about the America 2.0, really a revolution that's unfolding. And what you mentioned is really at the absolute heart of it.
Right. It's because, like I said, when you buy a house, I mean, that's a big commitment. That just shows the amount of, strength in like wages. Americans are making more, and they're willing to do this. And another thing that I wanted to point out real quick is that millennials are actually spending more on houses. So compared to 2018, 2019 saw like a 7% increase in the loans, in the value of the loans taken out by millennials when they're buying houses, which is higher than the increase in baby boomers, is almost as high as Gen Xers. So not only are we buying houses, buying the most houses, we're actually spending more at a faster rate. So that's great. It shows a lot of strength in this economy.
It also tells you, Ian, just before getting on, I was looking at Market Watch. It's just filled with, if it's not pure out and out doom and gloom, it's just pessimism
Right.
nonstop. I mean, it just never ends. We are optimistic, folks. We are optimistic. We think our stocks are going to rise. America 2.0 stocks, which are stocks related to the megatrends, related to the rise of the millennial generation, the follow-on generation is Gen Z, new trends like space and yeah, this is a good transition. We are bullish. We are optimistic. I am positive, and I have now learned to abbreviate. I've created my own hashtag for this, Ian. It's B/O/P. And on Twitter, that's my short form for bullish, optimistic, and positive. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Mampilly Guru. And Ian, I forget your handle.
It's at Ian Dyer Guru.
And both of us are tweeting regularly. If you want a different point of view than you're getting from what I've called them bad news media, some readers have taken issue with that, but that's just the reality of it, right? I mean, do you read any good news on the media? I never do.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of people, like we talk about Tesla all the time. That's a perfect example of where people have been bearish for like years. And especially in like May and June when it was bottoming out, the stock price hit like $180. And so then you saw people like pessimism beyond belief. So people were saying, like this one analyst was saying that the stock was going to hit $40 a share, which is like unbelievable because it
Well,
was at
essentially, his
400.
bankruptcy. He's calling for the
Yeah,
bankruptcy of Tesla. And you and I, we were on Slack and was like, this is crazy.
yeah,
Crazy.
exactly. And now here we are at $500 a share 7 months later.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I actually saw like a downgrade, I believe yesterday. It's like, well, don't get too hyped up about it. I was like,
Yeah,
okay, fine. I mean, what can you do, Ian? I mean, you can only show people, it's that saying, you can show people where the water is, you can't make them drink. So, I mean, Tesla is at 500. On Market Talk, I believe it was this week, there was some news that, they're going to have the news on the semi coming up soon. And we have a special going on in one of the publications that you and I work on. It's the $10 million portfolio. This is where we generally discuss and we show people and recommend stocks that are a little bit out of the mainstream. Either the structure is different, they're in foreign markets. And you and I, we found a pretty cool set of stocks.
oh yeah,
I mean, it was a genuine surprise. And I was like, when I pitched you, I was like, hey, the way I think about it is just imagine like you knew the iPhone was coming and you knew what the parts were.
yep.
So these are, I mean, I think it's international for like, but I think it's like for Tesla, like for globally, I think there's suppliers for them, like real globally.
Yeah, they have a lot of global suppliers, but the thing is, they're turning more and more to these countries that are being benefited by the trade war, actually, because a lot of businesses have come out of China because they were being taxed so much on their exports. And as a result, some of the surrounding countries are great places to invest. And one of these examples is these companies that supply Tesla. They're
Yeah.
looking outside of China, and it's looking very good for them. A lot of
I mean,
demand.
I know a lot of people are like, Paul, that sounds like a good idea, which is like Tesla suppliers, because, we got the semi coming, Model Y coming, the Cybertruck. In other words, Tesla's going to need a lot of parts,
Yeah,
which means
for sure.
that their part suppliers are going to be booming, booming,
Yeah,
booming. So Ian and I, we put together this phenomenal report on a set of Tesla suppliers that we think are absolutely, absolutely astonishing. And so if you would like to get in on this, you're going to see a strong hands icon up there. Click on it, and it will take you to a page that will give you all the details so you can get this amazing report on Tesla suppliers that I believe is going to go into all the things that they are going to be introducing in 2020 and beyond. I mean, that's just an unlimited amount of things that they're going to be introducing. So, I mean,
yep,
we're still bullish on Tesla.
of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've just gotten started. They only have one car that's mass produced so far, and they've got at least 2 more in the works.
Yeah. I mean, the Model 3 is still like, I mean, my kids and I, when I first got a Tesla in, every time we saw another Tesla other than ours, it was like an event. Now it's getting a little
Yeah,
hard because they're
yeah,
everywhere. On Twitter, I actually mentioned that, hey, actually I was a little bit early. I have to admit, I was a little bit early on Tesla because I just looked at the cash flow that the Model 3 could generate.
yep,
Looking out, and I was like, it is going to be astonishing because their margins are, I mean, General Motors and Ford for ICE cars, it's like 3 to 5% max. So that's like the
yeah,
cycle top. But Tesla is as much as 25 or 30%. In other words, they sell those cars, they're making a lot of money.
yeah.
That's
They
what's
sell a
driving the
fraction of the
forecast.
cars as Ford and GM, and they're making like almost as much profit. It's crazy.
Yeah, and now Tesla is actually worth more than Ford and GM combined.
Yeah, yep. Almost 100,
So,
100
I mean,
billion. Yeah,
I'm on the record as saying I believe that Tesla could be at $1,000 come year end. I know that sounds like a pipe dream to a lot of folks. However, just imagine all the market capitalization of all these internal combustion engine makers slowly shrinking down to nothing, and it all sort of like being poured into Tesla. And that's really what I see happening, and which is why Tesla today is worth more than GM and Ford together. And then there's Toyota and, you know, and all the other manufacturers that are trying to limp and catch up to where Tesla is, whether it be on EV manufacturing or on autonomy, which no one really talks about. But Tesla is like so far out in the lead on autonomy, so far out.
Yeah, I mean they're Sentinel mode. That's unlike anything any other car company is doing.
Well, one day we'll have to show some folks of, like, you know, I've got a lot of video on Sentry mode, you know, of people coming to check my car out. And it's interesting when they see like there's this big red light, you know, that they're that they're being recorded. It's always interesting to see what they do. All right, yeah. We've done Tesla. Let's do Cannabis, because there's a lot of stuff going on there, and you've made a big call on MJ. So let's do what's going on in Cannabis.
Yeah. So MJ, the ETF has a bunch of pot stocks in it. I think that's going to double this year, and it's gotten off to a good start. So, for example, on Tuesday, this company called Organigram reported their quarterly earnings. The next day, the stock was up 45%, and the amount of shares traded in that stock was what's usually traded in 3 entire weeks, just in one day. That shows that there's so much demand. We saw a lot of demand pouring into these pot stocks on New Year's Eve too. Like multiple times what the normal daily volume was. There's so much like spurts of buying, and that's kind of how the bottoming process works in stocks. Is they fall like super fast, they don't go straight back up, but you see like these huge bursts of demand here and there. We've seen that at least 3 times now since late November, and so it's really looking like it's going to gear up to run big soon. And I think these stocks are going to have a huge year. There's a lot of demand, even for tiny stocks like Organigram, and then you've got bigger stocks like Canopy that are up too.
We've seen moves, Ian, in Hexo as well. And, you know, so that means that there's a lot of liquidity pushing in there, and it's driven actually by, I mean, you can't call, you know, I mean, like news that shows that there is massive demand for this product, and people have fears that there's too much supply. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I know, right? And then you see Illinois open up their pot sales. First 5 days, they made $11 million. And a bunch of stores actually had to close down because they sold out way too quick. Right. So the oversupply thing is a myth, in my opinion.
Not only that, it was on like a crazy cold day in Chicago, which is like some serious stuff. I mean, you know, it really gets cold in Chicago. You saw all these people like bundled up in freezing like weather, waiting in line to get this. How many products, how many services can you say that about, Ian?
Exactly.
That people are like willing to wait in line on a winter day in Chicago to go get. I mean, that just shows you that there is an enormous amount of demand for the product that's out there. And I do want to mention that $10 million portfolio, which is the same one that we're putting the Tesla suppliers into, has some phenomenal pot stocks, cannabis stocks in it. So you subscribe and get all of that. So, you know,
in that coverage. We've got the #1 pot company in Illinois, like the #1 market share. We've recommended it.
That's right. So if you want that too, so, you know, consider subscribing to the $10 million portfolio. And I also want to mention that, you know, Nevada, which is one of the earliest adopters of legalizing cannabis, is now taking in $11 million approximately per month in taxes. So, I mean, their sales have got to be like just, I don't know what, like maybe 100 million a month. I mean, you know, it's got to be huge. I mean, it's got to be huge. So that's another super bullish sign. And you bet that, you know, North Carolina and all the others where we don't really have legalization, they'll be like, oh, you're taking in 11 million? We want some of that. So it's going to like fast track legalization across the states. I feel like, you know, in the next 3 years, it will be federally legal. And if you wait for that moment, it's going to be too late. Because, you know, I mean, while, you know, there's probably like years and years. However, markets always anticipate because they look forward. So, you know, Ian, you know, I have to give you credit. You called, you know, I mean, I was watching it. I was a little skeptical when you called the bottom on pot stocks. I have kept some of the skepticism. So well done. And, you know, I did follow your lead, and we put a pot stock into Profits Unlimited, which is my flagship service, where we have all the America 2.0 stocks, and we've got all the megatrend stocks in there. So all credit to you. And, you know, MJ at $100 per share. Is that the prediction?
100. Well, that would be nice. That would be like a 500% gain, but 100%.
100%.
I mean, $100, sure. You can see like every state legalized in the 2020 election.
Okay, 100%. All right. Let's get on to Bitcoin and crypto, because you've seen there was, I think it was like a couple of days ago, suddenly piece of news related to, is it the CME or some exchange starting to trade options, and boom, liquidity starts to flow into crypto.
Yep. Yeah, it was a CME, and their option, the trading volume in their options for Bitcoin were higher than the backed options, and backed has been around for months. So that caught on real quick. CME is one of the biggest exchanges in the world. So they're going to draw a big crowd for these Bitcoin options.
Yeah, I mean, I am, you know that we are super, super optimistic on Bitcoin. However, Ian and I were on Slack the other day, and I was telling him, hey, I'm searching for fintech recommendations, and for the most part, it's hard to find. And so we had a discussion, and we actually think that the sort of platform cryptos represent actually the way to invest in fintech. And in the way that, at least I look at it, I don't know if Ian's totally on board with my two-part system of seeing crypto. I see crypto as store of value cryptos, which is Bitcoin and sort of all the derivative sort of Bitcoin, and then Litecoin, and others. And then I see platform cryptos, which are like Ethereum, Ripple, Lumens, Tezos, others that are out there that are still sort of, there's smaller ones out there. I believe that that those platform cryptos are really the way to really get to the heart of fintech disruptification. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can send, for example, Ripple, they're working with like MoneyGram and companies like that. You can send these tokens, XRP tokens, across the world in like a few seconds, and it costs you like a fraction of a percent in transaction costs. Whereas if you did like a normal bank transfer across the world, it would not only take like days, but it would cost you a lot of money in fees. It's way cheaper. It's fat. It makes just more sense all around. And of course, banks, something that big isn't going to be disrupted overnight, but we're seeing like the pieces kind of fall into place here for that to happen over the long term for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen on Coinbase some of the stuff that they're doing with Tezos, and when I look at that, I see that as absolutely something that can disrupt the savings account program, at banks. And I was like, I think I'd rather own that than this. And insurance, I think Ethereum has really a pretty good structure for building insurance products, which are a pain to really access. So, I mean, the reason to bring this up is that within our two-part structure, we always think that Bitcoin and the store of value, they are going to take market share from gold and precious metals and all the junk currencies of the world, which get inflated to zero eventually, slowly or fast, whatever. And that these platform cryptos are actually going to take market capitalization from banks, insurance companies. Who else can we think of it in that? I mean, that's trillions of dollars. I mean,
Yeah, it's trillions. Yeah, I mean,
and global,
you look
too.
Look at most of the countries in the world. The biggest companies in those countries are their banks.
That's right. Yeah. And there's also a kind of like uncalculated market capitalization for all these central banks that just issue junk currencies that just get inflated to zero. So that's trillions of dollars of market cap that we believe are going to flow into crypto in some way, shape, or form. We may not have the exact structure, but remember, we're trying to look forward and anticipate, and so there are no guarantees or anything like that, but nonetheless, we can start to see this starting to happen.
Same with gold. It's going to take the gold market cap too. It's
Absolutely.
like 9,
and which is
trillion.
Trillions, right? Which is like $1 trillion. So, that's what we think, is going to like really boost these store of value cryptos, because the vast majority of the world has nothing to leave their savings in. They're forced to use variable currencies. Yeah. So like we promised that we would try to keep this somewhat short. Anything that you're particularly looking at right now in terms of the market, other than we covered housing, we covered Tesla, we did cannabis, and we did crypto, Bitcoin. Anything else that you're excited to checking out right now, Ian?
Mostly, I mean, I think pods probably, if not the biggest, one of the biggest opportunities this year. Obviously, housing. These stocks are like the housing stocks are where they were back in 2008. So, or before the crash, of course. I would recommend buying ITB. It's like a housing ETF. It has some of the biggest, best housing companies in the country. That could have a very good year too.
Right. And also, Ian and I also run two option services, Rapid Profit Trader and Rebound Profit Trader. And this is where we take a lot of the ideas we're talking about here, and to the extent that we can find incredible, profitable setups in the option market where you can make money like that. And we're talking about 20, 30% in like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, very, very quickly. Things that you might normally wait 3, 6, 9 months, or even 1 year for, you can get super fast.
Yep, exactly.
All right, Ian, we'll close this out because our team is waiting for this video. So if you like this content, the Ian Cast, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. And remember the Tesla suppliers, just go back in the video and click on the strong hands. You can get access to that. All right, Ian, let's call it.
All right, everybody. Happy Friday. Have a great holiday weekend, a long weekend, and I'll see you next Friday.
And this is Paul saying bye.